Hi, everyone. We want to welcome you to our tabletop live discussion and Q&A for our elementary school families. I am Jill Pillagallerani. I'm the Director of Learner Support Services here in the district. We're going to be providing a review of our upcoming safety activities involving our tabletop drills that will be taking place next week. Safety of our students is priority, and we're not only do we plan and put protocols in place, but we definitely prepare. So I'd like to introduce our team tonight. We have Dr. Jenny Remka, who is the principal of the JFK AFM complex. Mrs. Christina Schaefer, who is the principal of Millville Elementary School. And Officer Scott Gould, who is one of our district resource officers. So I'm going to hand it off to Jenny, Christina, and Scott for the overview of our upcoming drills. And we will have time at the end to respond to any questions that may come in.
Thank you.
Scott and Jenny.
Thank you. So over the weekend, Mrs. Shaver and I sent out an email to all parents with an updated video on the drill, kind of give you an overview. What does that look like, when we do the drill? And I hope everyone had a chance to review it. So we are preparing for upcoming drill. Mine is on the 17th. Ms. Shaver, yours is
we're on the 19th.
Okay, yeah. And so we're hoping tonight we can answer some questions you might have. We also have Officer Gould here and might answer, the question that we might not have answer for you.
So, Officer Gould, do you want to talk a little bit about what we talked about with the kind of the norm, I guess we'll say it, of safety drills?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So for those of you folks who are a little concerned about this, please be aware that there is nothing scary that's going to be discussed about this. In fact, we've gone and decided weapons will not be discussed. Any mention of weapons during the drills will not be discussed. This is just a stranger approaching the schools. And what we want to do is we want to get the teachers to get the children to listen to them, just like we do with the fire drills. We do 3 fire drills per year. That's becoming the norm. And what we're trying to do with this is just make it like a fire drill. So it's just the teachers know exactly what to do and the children are just going to follow them. By having the discussion with the children, it gives them a chance to ask. It might seem like a scary question to them, but we've kind of, and I apologize for using the term, dumbed it down to make it not scary for the children and also for the staff as well. This is a serious thing. Nobody wants to go through it. Certainly, none of us have want to go through it. But reality is we need to be prepared for it. And this is the simplest way to be prepared for it, by treating it just like a fire drill. So we can't get into the tactical or the operational questions that you might have of what's going to take place in the school when the officers respond. We just don't like giving that kind of information out. But I just want you to rest assured that this is just like a fire drill. And again, we're going to keep it as simple for the children, down to the level this is just a stranger approaching the school and entering the schools.
Mm-hmm. And Christina and Jenny, can you talk a little bit about, I know we go through some scenarios with the kids, we don't need to share that, but if you can just talk about how we set this up, who will be doing this with the students, what parents can expect, their children might come home and, say what happened on that day.
Yeah, so we did that last year. We kind of work off of the high school situation. This year I didn't do it, but the police department, in collaboration with Millville Police Department, we kind of revise it so it's more elementary level. So we have 6 scenarios. Am I right, Mrs. Shaver? Each scenario will be read over the intercom, and so it's like very much like a drill. And then right after the announcement, each announcement, there's like time that teacher can have discussion with kids. They might have questions. So in the video, you would see Mrs. Martineau was asking, okay, we have a stranger in the building, over like at my school be like D Wing, what would you do? And the kids kind of like discuss that. And then the teacher will help them guide those discussion. And we will have police officers in the building because sometime we might want to have the police officer come in and give more, answer some questions that kids might have. We did that last year, and I know Ms. Shaver did that as well.
And so I know some parents might be thinking, why do we do this with a 3 and 4 year olds, for our preschool up to 2nd grade? And for preschool to 2nd grade last year, we kind of got all the kids on the rugs. Many of the classrooms had the kids come sit up on the rugs and we're talking through the scenarios together. We did, Officer Gould and I looked over our scenarios. I think we cut 1 or 2 out because it was too long for the little ones, for pre-K 2 last year, or pre-K 1 last year. It was a little bit too long for them. So we kind of looked at the best ones to kind of run, and we took 1 or 2 out. But we did focus on the same ideas of just them talking with the teachers. We did last year also kind of, we had an officer upstairs and an officer downstairs kind of in the hall to answer questions, or myself and another staff member to answer questions that staff and students may have if they come up while they're talking. So we do allow that time. They can kind of pop up and ask us questions. And the other piece is for any of our classrooms that may need a little more staff support, all of our available staff, OT, PT, speech, anybody that's available, we have them be an extra set of hands if classrooms need it. But we do have at least 2 adults in most classrooms. So there is a second set of hands to kind of lead the discussion, lead that conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's
Christina,
also done in a manner that's not intimidating to kids. It's calm and it's kind of like a nice discussion versus something scary to them.
And just for some clarification, Christina, you mentioned that, well, yes, there were officers in the building. So this is a little bit different than a fire drill. It's not like the police, the fire department during a fire drill, sends the truck out, they check the building. That's not what this is. So when you're talking about police officers, you're talking about our district SROs, correct?
Correct.
And our SROs are in our buildings all the time. So they're very familiar with our students, our classrooms. So that's what that is. Mm-hmm.
And last year went really well for the complex, and as well as MES. The kids, the students had really nice discussions, and they actually asked, at my building at least, the officers can come in, and because they had some more questions. And I don't know that with the little ones that they asked to speak to the officer.
We did that again. We did that as well last year at MES.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we already prepared our teachers. Yes, as a matter of fact, yesterday, SROs came and spoke to the teachers, offer any additional support if they have questions prior to the drill.
I think that's a great point, Jenny, because like I said, I know what I mentioned before that we plan and prepare, but we do prepare our staff to be prepared to work with our students, some type of questions that would come up. And again, I'm hoping that our families had an opportunity to turn in and look at the video. But is there anything else that on the video for those families who may be tuning in, who may not have watched the video, anything else that, we could potentially share about what, what's happening? The students aren't leaving the building. The students aren't leaving the classroom. They're actually discussions that take place.
Right after each scenario, correct.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think it's a time, I think especially now, this is not our first time doing it. I think last year there was a lot, people were a little nervous because it's the first time we've run through stuff like this. But Officer Gould actually is also coming in the building. He came in this morning, yesterday, tomorrow, and he'll be in Friday as well to kind of talk with staff that have questions once they kind of review it all for new staff, and kind of maybe have specific questions about their rooms, about what would happen, in certain scenarios. So it is a good thing to have them answer the question. Last year, we had a lot more staff with questions. This year, now that we've run through it once, we've already had the opportunity. Staff really don't have as many questions.
Mm-hmm. And I think Officer Gould made a great point that part of these drills, just like in fire drills, is that, students are really focused in listening to direction and their teacher to be able to follow. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that was actually, we talked about that at our staff meeting yesterday with Officer Gould, that, the big piece is the children, especially if we have any students with disabilities that may need extra support, just training them to listen to their teachers and, be quiet in that type of scenario so that they can hear the directions given by adults. We reinforce that during fire drills, that they need to, go out quietly so they can hear if there's any directions that need to be given. Well, it's the same type of scenario for this, is they need to be quiet, listening to adults for directions, and go from there.
Mhm. And Christina, I know you mentioned that, we have additional staff in the buildings. And Jenny, I know it's the same as the complex. If we have any students who may need some additional assistance or support, they're also available at the complex as well.
Mm-hmm. And it will be classroom teacher handling those discussions. As a matter of fact, our teachers wanted me to change the schedule, making sure that they're not in specials. Now, the special teachers will go into the classroom. I know that they will, but the classroom teachers really want to have those discussions with their own kids.
We're doing the same in Millville. We actually had that same discussion yesterday. It's better that our teachers, the homeroom teachers, are leading the discussions with them. They're with them the most, and they've built the strongest relationships with them at this point to have those discussions. So we're doing the same at Millville.
Great. Is there anything else anyone wanted to share at this point about, our activities coming up? If not, I do know we had some families who reached out to us earlier with some questions. I definitely have those ready when you're ready for them. But is there anything else that you wanted to share prior to jumping into some of the questions that we do have?
No, that's about it. I'm sorry.
I just want to add one more thing that to ease everyone's fears about this as well, that there will be no intruder actually coming into the school. There will be nobody portraying an intruder. This is simply a script that's going to be read from the office over the intercom, like Jenny mentioned. There isn't going to be anybody in the school other than the students, the staff, and the SROs. So I hope that helps ease your concerns.
And I know both Jenny and Christina did share with families kind of a video that goes through what the students, kind of the activity they'll be engaged in. So I know that families can definitely log on to that. I know the link was shared, correct?
It was shared, and I put it in my update again so that it was in there. And it just went out. I'm trying to remember who said that went out initially, but it did go out, and then it was shared again, and it was shared last night with the video with the link for tonight. So it's been in multiple places. So if you need it, you can also reach out to either principal and let us know if you need it if you didn't have a chance to see it yet.
Right. And our kids did a great job, helping to prepare that video. So it'll just give you a great example of what to expect on the day of the trainings, of the drills. So let me jump into some of the questions, because that may, answer a little bit more than what was presented. So I know, Christina, this first one is kind of from Millville Elementary. And I know you talked a little bit about this, but again, the question was from a parent: will my preschool, feel scared during the tabletop exercises?
They should not. We are doing our best to make sure that the staff are prepared so that they don't have any anxiety or concern and portray that to students. It's just having a little discussion, and we kind of make it a little more fun / playful with them at 3 and 4 years old, just so it's not so serious. And even though it is a serious topic, so it's more fun for them and they can kind of ask questions. There's obviously a lot more teacher support during those and a lot more teacher direction versus, maybe K1, 2, where the students are able to have a little more of a discussion.
And it says, what will happen if my child is not in their homeroom? So I guess that could be two kinds of questions. Number one, I did hear that Jenny mentioned that they are scheduling, so the students are actually with their homeroom teachers and not at their specials. But is there any follow-up with those students who might be absent that day? So we make sure all of our students are on the same page.
I think in order to prepare all of our students, obviously depending on age level, will probably just be a quick discussion. I know for me, first and second grade, maybe even K would be a discussion. Preschool would be more of, if there's anything that we need, kind of the same old, all the teachers' directions and all of that. And then also the other thing I forgot to mention is, any OT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, any of those services will also not be happening, so the students can be in their homeroom and don't have to worry about those pieces as well.
Jenny, I didn't know if you had any follow-up with that at all? Or?
No, pretty much same with Christina. They will be in their homeroom, and we have support staff to be in there. Again, even though they're not in the special doing the drill, but our special teachers and specialists are trained. As a matter of fact, this week we have a couple of training. Last week we had a training. This week we had a training. We'll have a training tomorrow for any staff that hire after. So we make sure they all train.
So I know we touched upon this a little bit. I think all of you touched upon a little bit, but it said, I didn't get a chance to watch the video, but what kind of language will be used? Because again, this person said, I just don't want my child to feel scared.
So I think, we use the word stranger, or a person that someone doesn't belong here. So students know that, and it's not intimidating. We don't say an intruder. It's more of at pre-K to 2, it's definitely like a stranger. So they know at that age, stay away from strangers and not chat with them and all that stuff.
So what the older kids would say, again, we say stranger, we don't say intruder, who doesn't belong in the building, near the gym. So then right after that, the conversation would be, at that point, what's the next step? So the student might say, oh, we barricade, or we, leave, jump out the window. So then that's why we have adults to guide those questions, that guide those discussions.
Mm-hmm.
So we read the scenarios very short.
So this next question kind of follows up what you were saying, Jenny. A parent said, I have a student at both MES and the complex. Will the children have the same conversations with their teachers? I'm sure the conversations and the grade levels will look a little bit different. Are the scenarios similar?
I think
Same scenario. Yeah.
Same scenarios, yeah. But as that question I mentioned, you had mentioned they will have some deeper discussions, obviously, at the older grades, versus pre-K to 2. They will have much more in-depth conversations at the complex than we would have.
Mm-hmm. Someone also asked, I have a younger child. I think we did answer this question. It said, I have a younger child. Will the term shooter be used in the drill discussions? And the answer is no, it will not. Again, this is another question that I think you answered. Again, how will students need extra support be handled? Do extra staff help? And I noticed you mentioned that the students will be with their homeroom main teacher, and we have several staff across the building. Now that will include, I heard Mrs. Schaefer mention OTs, PTs, but we also have our counselors who are aware, our specialists aware. So we'll have a lot of extra support for those kids. Now I know last year, Jenny, you started to talk about a little bit, it went well. Did we find that students, typically handled the conversations well? Did we find a lot of students, needed that extra support or?
No, we didn't. Actually, last year we had counselors ready to meet with students afterward. If they have more questions or if they, nervous about it, we didn't have any student ask to see counsel.
Same for our students that participated in it last year. So our 1 and 2 students participated in it last year. And some of our K did if they were in the building for preschool last year when we ran the drills. So they did. Yeah, they actually enjoyed the time sitting on the carpet together and talking. So,
and please remember, all these children were there, except we have new students that they went through this drill before, except your kindergarten. Did you do it with the preschool?
Sorry. Yeah, some of our preschoolers were there. So if they came to preschool in Millville, some of them actually were there. So any of our preschoolers that were there the day we ran it last year did participate in it. So they were part of it.
So I know we did talk about this as well, and we have a video. So it did say what occurs in the classroom during the tabletop drill. So I would definitely say to families, I know we described that a little bit, and definitely watch the video. And the second part of that question, are people banging on the doors? No, that is not this type of drill. I know Officer Gould talked about that. No one's going to be banging on the doors, running through, none of that. This is just a scenario with an opportunity for students to calmly have conversations with their teachers and kind of talk through some of those situations. Someone else asked, let's see, who should I contact if I have any questions? Like after listening to this presentation or watching the video, who should I contact if I have any questions either before or after the drill is over? Because we know some kiddos, maybe before parents may have questions, but some kiddos may come home and have questions. So who should families reach out to if they, want to discuss this or have any additional questions?
So yesterday, when I met with Officer Nimsek, he's our SRO. He's wanted me to share his email, and if anybody have questions, just email him. I think it's the same for MES, correct?
Mhm. So families could reach out to the principals. They could reach out to
Sure.
either you or Christina too, if they have any other, other questions that maybe our SOR could assist with. They could do that as well. But all of our families should have your email addresses, especially with sending out all these emails. So you could potentially.
So I would say email both principal and SRO.
Okay.
The other piece I'd like to add is just so families don't get frustrated is obviously we can't give you details of specifics or in the event we ever have to use any of this. We can't give you those specifics. So please do not get frustrated with us because our goal obviously is always to keep your child safe. So please don't get frustrated if we can't give you specific details, but we will do our best to ensure your comfort and your feelings and your child's feelings from either before the drills or after the drills.
You know what? Well said, Christina, because our goal is the safety of our children. By sharing detail, we are jeopardizing their safety because if we're sharing with parents, then public would know. So we don't want that. We want to make sure that our kids are safe.
And actually, that's great because there were actually two questions that I was about to talk about that we really can't respond to. Someone said, where would the kids be going if they're evacuated? That's really something that we can't share because that's safety. And the other question is, what does it look like when they exit the building? Again, that's not something that, that we'd be sharing, but we can assure you that, we do have plans and procedures in place and evacuation sites ready. But those are things that we kind of keep, confidential when needed because we want to make sure that we're able to, if we do need to evacuate, it's done so safely. But there was a question that I think it did say, in the event of a real emergency, how will parents know? Is there a communication tree? How do they know?
I think so one calls would be, or phone calls would be our communication piece, but the other piece is we don't want every single parent going to our, site if we ever need to initiate any of these drills, because it will also cause for a lot more chaos. Mm-hmm. So that's another important piece that we don't want to share, but you would definitely be notified by the school in some form, whether it be a one call, whether it be a phone call.
And again, I believe that information will be coming directly from the superintendent's office because this would be an event-driven scenario. So we don't know what school it would be. So instead of having a blanket statement of this is what's going to happen, it'd be more specific to what's going on during that particular event, and that would come from the superintendent's office.
And there was only just a couple more questions, which I think we did answer. One person asked, will the police be coming to the school? So it's not like the fire drills where, a fire truck rolls up or, other members of the police department come. We have SROs that are district SROs. They will be the police that are involved in this, activity. The students will not be evacuated from the building. That was another question that was asked. Again, that's not what this is. And again, who will be doing the drills with the student? And like I said, I think it's great that, our principals were able to accommodate to have our students for these conversations. They're with their homeroom teacher. They're very comfortable. It's with individuals who know our students for this first initial conversation. But again, other members of our faculty and staff will be available to help support students who definitely need that. So it looks like I can give it another minute. I don't see any other questions coming in yet. Some of the questions that did come in, we did go through all of those, the ones that we could actually answer. I didn't know if anyone else had anything else they'd like to share. If not, we can give it just another minute to see if anyone wants to, come in.
I do want to add to, what was said before, in the event of we have to evacuate the building, you will get a message from us. But we can't stop from, people put it on social media, but just wait for the message from the superintendent's office because we need to take care of the children first. So we want to make sure all our children safe first and then communicate that out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to reiterate, none of the children will be leaving their classrooms at all during this exercise. They won't be going even into the hallways. They're going to be staying in the classroom with their teachers and the other advisors or counselors, whoever is there. The principals, the SROs, and the identified staff will be the ones roaming the halls to answer the questions. So again, please be assured that your children will not be going out of the school. They won't even be going out of the classroom.
I mean, I think the biggest thing I'd like to reiterate to parents is please reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns. We did run through this last year, so we do have some experience with this. Last year was our first time, so but this year we've got some experience going into this and kind of how we want to handle it. Our staff have experience going into this and how they want to handle it. Any of our brand new staff have talked to their mentors or other colleagues to find out. Officer Gould's been over at the buildings helping. I know today, I think a couple staff showed him their rooms to ask questions. So we definitely are ready to support your child and help them understand just the importance of just listening to their teachers, kind of following directions from the adults.
Great.
I agree. We feel really good about it because we did it once and it went really well. And I feel like we're more experienced too. And with those conversations, we actually had teachers jot down some, feedback last year. Was it too long, too much time for the discussion, or not enough time? So, we learned from last year as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. So I do not see any other questions coming in. I appreciate you answering all the questions that had come in earlier. I would encourage families to definitely find that link. I know you had sent it out, both of you had sent it out a few times. If they want to get a sense of what's going to happen in our classrooms during our tabletop discussions, activities. And if there are any questions, reach out. We have, both Jenny, Christina, we have Officer Gould, Officer Nimzik, who are available to answer those questions. And like I said, when we initially started, we have definite plans and protocols in place to ensure the safety of all of our children. But part of that is the preparation, making sure our staff is prepared and also making sure our students are prepared. So I don't know if anyone else has anything, any last words, but if not, I appreciate everyone who was able to join us tonight. Again, please reach out if you have any questions, because we do anticipate our activities going very well last week. We're ready to go. And, our students never cease to surprise us. They always do a wonderful job during these things and are very open to these discussions. So we're looking forward to doing these next week. And again, if there's any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.